Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Vetiva Capital Management and our media partners at Frontier Africa Reports, we would like to welcome everyone to a new week and thank you for joining us on our meeting this morning. It is Monday, the 7th of June, 2021. As always, this meeting is being recorded and the audio file may be shared with third parties. The meeting is also being broadcast live on the Vetiva online page on Facebook. The meeting is set to last for 30 minutes, inclusive of Q&A. On our agenda today, we will get a rundown of um, global equities from our global equities desk with our trader Sheung. After which, we will move to our partners from IC Securities in Ghana for their own updates. Following that, Omoroge will give us a rundown on outlook for fixed income and currencies. And then we will conclude with Temple Asaju from Frontier Africa Reports for their updates. Over the course of the meeting, we'll be running a poll, and we would like for you to participate in this poll over the course of the meeting, and then the results will be shared after. We will now start off with Sean from the Global Equities Desk. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Chidoze, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the new week. So we start off reviewing the performance of the BRVM and the Nigerian Stock Exchange on the performance on Friday as well as last week. And we'll also be giving our own outlook for the market. So we start off in BRVM. In BRVM, the index closed higher, inching up 23 basis points on Friday, which was the last trading day of the week. However, the positive close couldn't lift the index to a positive week-on-week appreciation as the index ended the week 85 basis points lower. But for a 85 bips lower, but we saw a 4-week gain of 2.7% in the market. CFAO Cote d'Ivoire continues to dominate the gainer stable with a 7.48% appreciation, and this was closely followed by gains in Crown as well as Secor, which closed 7.36 and 7.14% respectively. In terms of market activity in that market, on the index, we saw this was somewhat flat with 4% improvement in market turnover, and just like we had put out in our expectation for that trading day, that we said we're somehow going to see a flat turnover. Looking at the sectoral performances, all sectoral indices closed the session positive, with the highest gain recorded in the transportation subsector, and this was supported by the gain we saw in Barlour Transportation in the market. Specifically, we have noted recent upward movement in the share price of CFAO Cote d'Ivoire, and as the counter has appreciated has not appreciated as much as those other names that we've seen, like the likes of Nestle, the likes of Aura Group and all that. So we've seen it now appreciating, and so far the counter has recorded 25% week-on-week gain, and a 38.5% 4-week gain, and about 60% year-to-date return, which ranks it as the 11th best performing stock on the index, at least for 2021. And we believe investors will be pleasantly optimistic about CFAO, knowing that the stock has accrued 38.55% over the past 4 weeks. So those are some of the names we are also looking at to watch and to see what the performance will continue to be like. So lastly, in BRVM, and going into the week, we expect a mixed session, although we see fewer activity as we expect last week trading pattern to filter into this new week, at least for the earlier part of the week. Then maybe much later in the week, we might see activity level pick up. So moving to Nigeria, we saw the index ended the week on a positive note with 46 basis point upward movement. The gain also consolidated a positive week for a strong weekly appreciation of 1.23% appreciation in the market. That's for the week to moderate the year-to-date return to still negative, but to 3.84 negative 3.84%. The gain was largely driven by another impressive demand in Dansem. Um, I think Dansem gained about 3.35% ultra last week, and this pushed the counter that's Friday to 20 naira per share. FBN, that's First Bank holding, was another gainer, gained about 140 basis points. We also saw gains in MTN and Nigerian berries on Friday. So, but despite these positive close, activity level dipped as volume and value traded came lower, about 20% and 15% respectively, from the about 1.9 billion we saw. That's for the turnover. 1.9 billion we saw on Thursday to this 1.6 billion we saw on Friday. We continue to see the turnover of the market between 1.3 billion and 2 billion. That range has been range bound so far. Well, still on the Nigerian market, sectoral performance was largely positive, with only the insurance sector closing lower, while market breadth also pulled a positive return with 22 advancers and 9 decliners. And for the week, in terms of sectoral performance, though it was mixed, we saw 3 of the sectors that we cover close positive, while just the consumer goods and oil and gas were closed in the red for the week. So we believe going into today and the week, following the serial positive session and the capital appreciation across sectors that we've seen, we believe investor sentiment has been largely positive after the several weeks of negative reactions that we saw in May. May was somewhat a very negative month for the market, but for June, the week has started, the month has started on a positive note. Though we expect this sentiment to filter into the new week, however, we do not rule out the possibility of some profit taking at the start of the week after last week's gain. And just like we had previously mentioned, that significant number of players in the market are largely short term. So for those, once you see some level of appreciation, 5, 10, maybe 15%, they begin to take profit. So we'll probably continue to see such cycle in the market and not so that much market upward movement. Overall, we expect a mixed week that will be dominated also by large cross trades in the market. So as the week unfolds, we also continue to bring update to the week. So that will be it for the equities market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sean. We will now move to Daniel from IC Securities for their updates. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, everyone. So I'll start with the Government of Ghana Treasury bill space. Total bills tendered fell short of the target amount by 3% for the 91-day and 182-day bills on Friday. The yields for 91-day bill dropped by 7 basis points to 12.71%, while that of 182-day bill dropped by 8 basis points to 13.43%. The drop in yields could be attributed to a cut in monetary policy rate by 100 basis points by the Bank of Ghana during the week. On the local currency bond market space, secondary market trading ended the week on a fairly active note, with market interest clustered at the belly of the yield curve. 2025 and 2026 maturities saw some decent action in the session, as they traded at 18.2 and 18.60 levels respectively. Few buying interests were also seen in 2022 maturities, as Jan 22 was seen quoted at an offer yield of 15.75 and a bid yield of 16%. We expect to see similar action on Monday. And finally, on the Eurobond space, the major theme last week was US employment data, which showed strong payrolls, but not as expected. The 10-year US Treasury yield dipped below 1.6% after the data publication. Activity on frontier sub-Saharan African market bonds picked up last week following the release of US employment data. Ghana was no exception, as the curve experienced its highest weekly flows in 3 weeks. We reckon that Ghana will continue to see significant flows this week. That's all for the fixed income. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. We will now move to Johnson for Ghanaian equities. Johnson, you may mute yourself and speak. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. On the equity side, the Ghana stock markets maintain its bullish sentiment across the board as demand continued to entice supply with aggressive pricing. Markets recorded 5 gainers for the week ended June 4th, 2021, with EGL leading the pack of gainers as it advanced by 22 pesos to 1 cedi 75 pesos. Other gainers for the week include MTN Ghana, which was up 15 pesos, Standard Chartered Bank, which was up 7 pesos, Total Ghana, which was up 3 pesos, and Societe Generale, which was up a peso. Consequently, the Ghana Stock Exchange Composites Index gained 181.65 points to close the week with a year-to-date return of 35.05%. For the week ahead, we expect a similar trend from last week's session, with demand building up in EGL, FML, and MTN Ghana in anticipation of supply. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnson. We will now move to Omorige for fixed income and currencies. Good morning, Omorige.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'll be taking a recap of the Nigerian fixed income market activities for Friday. I'll start with the money market. The money market opened positive to close last week. Opening figures for Friday was about 117.86 billion positive. After we adjusted for repos, market was about 88.27 billion positive. Despite system opening in the positive region on Friday, interbank rate tightened by almost 100 basis points to trade around 15% levels from the 14% levels recorded on Thursday. We believe that money market will trade at lower levels today in the absence of any significant funding need in the market today. Moving on to the Nigerian FX market, the parallel market lost about 3 naira to trade at 502 naira to a dollar, while the earning window trade at the high of 428.27 naira to a dollar, closing at 410.75 naira to a dollar. That is about 15 kobo appreciation from where it closed on Thursday. And this was largely due to the significant increase in R&E system turnover, as it increased by 64.01% to close at $230.93 million on Friday from the $140.76 million recorded on Thursday. We believe that the Naira will continue to hover around these levels in the absence of any major policy adjustment by the regulator, which is the CBN. Moving on to the Nigerian Treasury Bills market, the T-Bills market closed last week on a bearish note, as players persistently showed offers across the benchmark curve. However, there was no corresponding buy interest in the market. The selling pressure persisted for most part of Friday's trading session. As a result, closing rates increased by an average of 10 basis points across the traded maturities. We expect the T-bills market to trade on a bearish note today and also tomorrow until Wednesday, where players will look onto the NTB primary auction result for clarity and the direction of short-term interest rates. I'll conclude with the Nigerian bonds market. The bonds market closed last week on a quiet note. We saw bids across the benchmark curve with very few maturities offered at lower levels than the closing levels of Thursday. The most sought after maturities were the 2027, 2035, and the 2050s. Offers on those papers were around 12.5%, 13.5%, and 13.65% respectively. However, only few trades were consummated across the benchmark curve, despite the significant buy interest in the market, and this was largely due to the persistent lack of offers in the bonds market. By the close of Friday's trading session, rates dipped by an average of 5 basis points. We expect the current sentiment in the bonds market to persist in the absence of significant show of offers across the benchmark curve. That concludes this for fixed income. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amor. We will now conclude with Temple from Frontier Africa Reports and their updates. Good morning, Temple.
Good morning and welcome to a new week all. We'll look at what's going on in Ghana. We've just heard about the market, but yes, there's been a bit of some more update about market data around gold this time, commodities, where Ghana's daily, where gold production rather dropped by 4.8% to 2.8 million ounces in the year 2020. The data was released by the Chambers of Mine recently. And we understand that despite the decline, it still puts Ghana as the top producer, Africa's top gold producer at the moment, in spite of the impact of COVID-19. Of course, that decline was the biggest decline since 2004. And we understand that the contribution to Ghana's GDP fell by 7.5% due to this decline last year. And that's like some 8.6% decline. So, but notwithstanding, the mining and quarry sector continues to add more to, continues to serve as the largest contributor to GDP of the country. We also understand that the daily minimum wage for Ghana has also just been increased by 6% to 12 cedis 53 pesos from 11.82. That's 11 cedis, 82 pesos. The National Tripartite Committee did carry out announced the plan and of course implemented it recently. There are plans also that they will be pegging, there will be increments again next year to 13 cedis 53 pesos, and that will represent an 8% increment over the 2021 increase that has just been announced. We told you last week that MTN is also likely to bid for the license in Ethiopia. Since last week, Ethiopia announced reopening issues of licenses for telecoms companies in that country. MTN has indicated interest somehow. That's Ralph Mupita, the chief executive, is saying that as long as this comes this time with a mobile money license, because during the last licensing round, Ethiopia abruptly removed mobile money from the licensing. So now it is expected that if this next round of licensing comes with mobile money operations, then MTN will participate, and that will also bring more participation into the entire bid. For week-to-date analysis of Rand was up 1% week-to-date, and we understand that it's been growing, 9% increase year-to-date against the dollars, and that's like the best performer the market for last week. Zimbabwe, we know that there's been shortage of COVID-19 vaccine lately. Now the authorities there, of course, last week, Wednesday or thereabouts, there were some protests across the country as well regarding the shortage of vaccine. The government is telling its citizens to basically calm their nerves, and that they hope to resume vaccination very soon, hoping that they'll get some more supply. There's a Global Ethical Finance Summit for 2021 holding soon in Egypt. It starts although this will be virtually done, it starts from tomorrow, June the 8th to June the 9th. The summit is basically to focus on sustainable ethical finance and sustainable developments, basically. Egypt's net forex reserves is also increasing, has increased by $125 million. That was the increment that they had in the month of May. These are our headlines for this Monday. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Temple. We have now come to the question and answer portion of the meeting. If you would like to speak, you may raise your hand and we will give you an opportunity to ask your question. Or if you're joining us on Facebook, you may use the comment function and we will treat it. Before we get to questions, just a quick announcement. On Wednesday, June 9, Ibukun Omoyeni, our economist at Vetiva, will be speaking on fiscal sustainability, the pump price dilemma. This will be on Wednesday, the 9th of June, 2021. Also, I will now share our poll results. So the question was, what do you think the CBN will do to bridge the gap between the NAFEX and parallel market rates? And most participants stated that they expect the CBN to improve FX liquidity through the INE FX window. We will now take questions. I see we already have two questions, one from Shehu and one from Mustafa. So Shehu's question is, what do we think will be the impact of the increase in minimum wage in Ghana on the equities market? I believe the IC security guys can treat that question. So Johnson, you may go ahead and respond to the question. Thank you.
Okay, so I think another thing that was not reported was that we've had fuel prices also go up around the same time the minimum wage was announced, about 13%. And it's the second time this year already we are seeing increases. So on a broader scale, we have to say that costs is going up. So we are unlikely to see the increase in the minimum wage actually trickling down to the households, as they still have to battle with COVID and increases in other things like transportation and the likes. But what we are likely to see though is that MTN paid our dividends on Friday. That was their dividend payment dates. And so we expect a lot more demand around MTN Ghana as investors continue to reinvest, or they decide to invest their proceeds from the dividend right back into the market. So we should continue to see some more activities on the stock markets, not necessarily as a result of the increase in the minimum wage, but then from market activities, there is still a huge demand appetite for equities and stocks. As you heard, there was a decrease in the NPR rates by 100 basis points, and so we take more inflows into the equities markets, but not necessarily from as a result of the increase in the minimum wage. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Johnson. I hope that answers your question, Shehu. So Mustafa question goes, what is the expectations of rates at the MTB auction on Wednesday? I believe Omorige can respond to that. Morige, you may respond. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Okay, for us, basically, we believe that for the short and mid-end rate, we maintain all those papers to close at 2.5 and 3.5 respectively. While for the 364 days, we don't expect any significant change in the last auction stop rate. It will probably over around 9.65% to 9.8%, given that what we have on offer at this auction is way more than what we had on offer in the last auction. And given the CBN and the DMO's propensity to usually sell more than what they have on offer, we believe that the stop rate will slightly close higher than where it closed at the last auction. So if we have to give a band to it, it's probably going to fall between 9.65% to 9.85%.
Thank you for your response, Morige. I see Chijoke Andrew has his hand up, so I will ask you to unmute yourself, and then you can go ahead and ask your question, Chijoke.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I just want to make a comment regarding the poll. I just felt that for improving liquidity, it should be a combination of both improve liquidity to the I&E window, and that's to the I&E window and the BDCs, because there are experiences whereby you bid for dollars because of the delays, and you go to the BDCs to see if you can get dollars to fund your account. Because of the scarcity, they take advantage. So I believe a combination of both flows to the I&E and the BDCs will help push down, improve liquidity, and also help reduce the volatility in the price trends in our naira. That's the price fluctuations, the volatility in our exchange rate. Thank you. Those are just my comments.
Thank you for that, Chijoke. We now have another question, and it goes: does the CBN have any ability to influence the I&E window volume, since the prices and volumes are determined by the forces of demand and supply? I believe Dapo can respond to that question. Good morning, Dapo.
Good morning, and thank you. So again, the CBN is also a major player in that market. Basically, part of the suppliers to that market, strong suppliers, I would even, say will be the central bank. So where they supply is a critical factor in where the rates close in that window. So I believe that should provide some clarification to that question.
Thank you, Dapo. I hope that answers the question. Do we have any further questions? Okay, we would like to thank everyone for the questions today. We would also like to thank you all for joining us on our breakfast meeting today. We continue to encourage everyone to keep safe. Again, a quick reminder, on Wednesday, Ibuku Omoyeni, that's the 9th of June, 2021. Ibuku Omoyeni, our economist at Vetiva Research, will be talking about the pump price, fiscal sustainability, the pump price dilemma. That will be on Wednesday, June 9th. So we hope to see everyone again tomorrow at 8:30, and we hope everyone has a good day. Goodbye.